In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
All right, everybody. Merrill Chandler here. Welcome to this episode of the Get Fundable podcast. And I'm live streaming, broadcasting across all of our social channels because I got something to say about this particular topic. Specifically, we're going to be talking about internal versus external authority. What do I mean by that? All right. I've been preaching for decades, both professionally, personally, with my children, my teammates, my partnerships, my love interests. In every way, there are two frameworks that we operate from, and sometimes we get confused. Sometimes we completely miss the boat on what's happening to us or for us, and how we can create a better, more effective way of dealing with our lives, especially in times of stress. So let's take a look at this. The first thing that I wanted to address was when it comes to the principles of internal. Let's define our terms. Internal authority is where you can generate a self-possessed, well-considered, thorough evaluation of what's going on in your life or when you're up against a particular issue. So, for example, if you have a internal authority is when you are, let's take a doctor. We're going to use a doctor's example throughout this entire process. So internal authority comes when there is self-possession, self-confidence, clarity, and gobs of experience. External authority is what a doctor would do when he or she goes to a medical school. You don't just go into a brain surgery environment. You don't walk into the operating room and say, you know what? I know how to do brain surgery. I have a gut feeling that this is what needs to be done. That's an interesting way to come across that, right? I know it needs to be done because I have a feeling that this is the right move. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not true. I'm going to say that the likelihood or probability of success in that operating room is very tightly linked to your skill set, and that our gut feelings, our intuition, our ability to connect dots is specifically linked to having all the data first. So we go to medical school, and we rely 100% upon known operating procedures, known anatomy evaluations. We work with cadavers so we can gain experience about the human body, but it's all external to us. We don't know jack about brain surgery. What we do know is little by little, we collect experience and more information, more knowledge. And then our intuition comes in and says, hey, what about this? What about this? We start connecting dots more and more effectively, the more and more we know. What is suspicious to all of us and what we don't trust in the world is when somebody comes in and they don't know what they're talking about, and then they create a line of thinking or a set of recommendations or specific tasks or strategies that don't do anything for us. They don't help us at all, right? A perfect example of this is in the previous episodes, we've talked about the old way, I can't even say the old way, the mythological way of getting business credit. If you do it the way that's out there before you learned about the Get Fundable way, you found out that you're trying to build a paydex score, and that paydex score requires 18 months of building credit accounts, and those credit accounts are Uline accounts and FedEx accounts and these different types of little accounts. And then at the very end, you find out, oh, I can have 100 paydex score and still Bank of America is not going to give me a $50,000 business line of credit. So we can believe and implement false external authority. So we've got to be careful where we're studying, what we're looking at, and who we're listening to. So I believe you and every person you know needs to be as critical and cynical as possible about what you listen to. External authority, it can be and has been highly deceptive when we don't have enough information. But think of it this way. People say, well, aren't you afraid when somebody's kind of taking apart or trying to take apart your strategies or is questioning your way, your fundability way against all these other methodologies? And I simply look at them and say, the more critical, I love cynics and I love critics, because if they're honest with themselves, when they see something that works, so when they see something that is viable and actually transforms everything that they're trying to accomplish and gets them the results they're looking for, they become my greatest fans. So I welcome cynicism. I welcome in every possible way. I welcome their critique, because the second they turn a corner, I don't know if it's going to be the 5th thing that they learn about or the 25th thing that they learn about. At some point, every one of us, every one of you listening, if you've been binging the podcast, you're like, at some point you went, this is a thing. It either this works because you implemented things, or you're like, this just makes too much sense. This has to be worth following up on, doing more with, right? And then you check out my book, or you check out the boot camp, or you check out the mastermind, or you get involved, because now you begin to believe it. And the more you do, and the better the results you get, the more phenomenal you're like superhero, right? And then you become a superhero at fundability, and I just get to be your cape, right? Me and my team literally just get to support you looking good while you implement all the tasks. But when it comes to fundability, I may be your external authority. You've had lots of them when it comes to business credit, perhaps. But even the subtle things that we look at in the book or in the podcast or in the boot camp, you may actually be having greater and greater and greater comfort and confidence in your ability to connect the dots that I've provided you, that your coaching team has provided you, your advisors, etc. So here's one of the things we need to that every once in a while we run into clients, students, people who kind of stand up and say, I love everything you're telling me, but this thing, I'm just going to do it this way. And that's okay. Especially when somebody says, my gut just tells me that this is the right way. I got to do it this way. You know what? I'm going to outline my case, and I'm going to tell you what I believe works based on the hundreds or thousands of cases that have worked. But I'm never going to tell you don't follow your gut. I'm going to say, can I back up a little bit when the landmine explodes, or the collision at 60 miles an hour on a rocket sled into a brick wall? I just want to back up a little bit and then where I can help pick up the pieces. Every one of us have somebody, and I don't like the judgment word. I don't like, they're not stubborn. They're not, what are the terms? Pig-headed, stubborn, willful. Those don't serve me or any of us. I don't believe those words. What I believe is that some people are, and I've been this way myself, so enthusiastic, so committed to running that sometimes I didn't have the football. So one of my dear friends from ages ago, oh bless his heart, man, Dion is awesome man, and he told me, Merrill. Now he may have met others since he told me this, but he goes, Merrill, I you are the only person that I know who can run. And this was like 30 years ago, right? We we're just kids. And he goes, you're the only guy I know who can run down the football field and have everybody follow you, but not have the football. And that stuck with me because that meant that I had influence, that people were willing to believe me. And I've spent a lifetime making sure, dotting every I, crossing every T, making sure in every way that I did not say a word to a soul unless I had 5 times more evidence than I needed, right? You guys didn't hear about FICO for at least a year after we went, because I wanted to make sure that everything that I was learning verified and validated what we were doing, right? And we made certain subtle shifts because the scientists and the FICO teams gave us great feedback that we were like, oh yeah, this is really good, but you could tighten it up over here. And I'm like, done, I'm all in. So one of my life goals, and to totally, you guys know I totally raw with you. One of my life goals was to always have the damn football if I was going to run down the field. So the question is for you, do you have the football when you're running down the field? Because I'm not alone in this. My enthusiasm, my bull in the china shop is certainly capable in every way of knocking over dishes when I'm running through there. So how do you overwhelm your external authority and for what you believe to be right, but don't have all the case studies, don't have all of the information, don't have everything that I don't like the word should, but all the information you should have before you start doing things or implementing things. How much education, right? Now, the balancing act to that, the internal authority versus the external, is how many of you spend so much time gathering external authority, training, but then you don't execute anything or very little, right? There's the seminar hoppers, right? Where we learn more and learn more, and we tell ourselves that learning more means I'm doing something, when in fact we're not doing something. We're learning more, and you guys don't need more education, especially those of you who've done boot camps and you need to take boot camps and trainings, and you've chosen a wealth strategy and have paid tens of thousands of dollars for the trainings. We got to do something about it, right? We got to exercise our internal authority and start taking what we learned and implementing it. There are times where we run into clients, students, even readers of my book, who thank you so much, and then I'm going to go do blank, and I'm literally like, how did you get that out of the conversation? I don't understand how you got that out of that chapter of the book or that part of the boot camp, or even our coaching clients. We say, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, yes, A, B, and C is awesome. And we're like, whoa. X, Y, and Z are appropriate in this strategy. And you're like, yes, because I'm going to do A right now. And it's unfathomable to me, but it happens. the thing is there are times in which we actually we will as boot campers, as no one's ever sent me the book back, but we've said, hey, I bless your heart, Godspeed, God bless. I've tried to weigh in as often as possible. I can't be a part of this train wreck that is coming at you. And just so you know, because you're not doing what I am recommending based on hundreds or thousands of cases that I know work and succeeded brilliantly, I can't take you on as a student or a client because it's going to be nuclear. This is not going to be a little kapowie. This is going to be nuclear, and what you're doing is going to screw up your situation in crazy hard ways. And so me and my team were talking about this. We actually had our daily team meetings, and we had a example come up, and this is a while back, and they said, what do we do? What do we do? And part of the question was, why is this a thing? Because it's so clear, step by step, dot this I, cross this T, and pull this plug, and ta-da, funding, or higher fundability, or, oh, look at that, a $20,000 business credit card to offload your personal credit card balances. Yay! But what we came to as a group, what we came to was that during times of stress, some of us, sometimes we can't, we overwhelm the facts with what we want to be true. And if I do this, and then all of the good external authority, right? All the good teachings, all the great proof that's out there, we listen to it just enough, we filter it and shapeshift it just enough so we can say we're doing that thing in our mind, but bulldozing ahead. Anybody ever done that? Anybody? Yeah. So I've said this in my boot camps, every boot camp, in a couple of podcasts. It's appropriate here. We can be right or we can be happy. Rarely do we get to be both. It happens, but rarely. Rarely. So an individual, any one of us, you and me, anytime we are so committed to a course or a path that goes against all of our coaching, all of our advisors, all of the external authority that tells us, by the way, this is a nuclear path. How do we not do that? And that goes back to, as I said in the intro, goes back to our blind spots, right? We're completely blind to the 180 degrees behind us. So I just wanted to use this podcast opportunity, and again, we're broadcasting to all of our social channels, because I want to yell on the rooftops, guys, learn what you need to do, no more, no less, and then go inside, find out how it serves you today to do something about it, and then implement it, right? And one of the things we were talking about in our last week, we shot this amazing masterclass on crisis, surviving the crisis, right? And how do we do recession management, survive, thrive, and recover if the very worst situation occurs. And one of the things that came out of that was, if we're on a slippery slope, how do we dig in? Most of us tend to either throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're like, oh, it's no use, and we took care of that idea. That's the worst idea ever. But at the same time, we want to, when we're looking at a recession square in the face, it could be a personal financial struggles, or it could be the nationwide global that we seem to be facing. The question is what is it that you really want? And then who are you depending on? Because you don't, part of the throwing the baby out with the bathwater, guys, is not throwing away the voice of reason, the people who know the strategies, who've done this a dozen times and know how to coach you, right? I am so blessed. So I'm guys, honestly, I'm stunned that our clients, there's no contracting with our clients. Everybody gets it that this is the time, and if they didn't work on their fundability 3 months ago when they should have, everybody's leaning in now because they know that great opportunities are facing us very shortly, the next 12 to 24 months. Everybody's leaning in. It's like this. It's like this. Have you ever? It's totally abstract. You know how hydroplaning works? When you get going, and they have them crossing from the UK into France, and there's they actually have these huge boats that go so fast that they start hydroplaning. They're up on not stilts, but they're on planes, and they go faster for less energy because they don't have as much surface area, and they just cruise across the channel. Race boats use hydroplaning, right, to get a little more, to get less drag. Well, the first instance when you hit the gas is it goes down. It's kind of the wrist rocket idea that I've shared, where the slingshot effect, where it apparently pulls back. Well, in hydroplaning, to use that metaphor, it's literally like, I mean, it feels like there's a subtle drag, and then it launches, and it shoots you forward. That's what our recession is. And so many times, guys, we look at what we're facing, and if we get nervous, uncertain, scared, or we make some wrong decisions, all of a sudden we want to contract personally. And when we get scared, we start throwing away the very advisors that are here to help us get through this because they've done it before. I'm just thrilled that as a tribe, Get Fundable and Credit Sense it's literally like, and our more and more clients are getting more and more results and are spending more and more time getting fundable because they see that great opportunities are just on the horizon. So how do we, my podcast universe, you funding hackers, tribesters, how do we learn what we need to know? Not everything you can. It is likely, let me frame it the other way. It is unlikely that you will ever know everything that I know about fundability. But you don't need to take down $1 million in business lines of credit. That's the point I'm making. You don't need to know what I know. I need to know what I know because I serve 1,000+ clients. Everybody who has a differences in what they need to hit that $200,000, $500,000, or $1 million. So, and I love this stuff. So I'm dedicated to learning it for you and then giving it to you when you need it to solve a problem. But you don't need to know everything. You need to know enough to make a decision about how to implement. And that's why it's always been fun. I've shared it with you before. The book is The Principles of Fundability, 17 chapters on how the game is played. There's no strategies in there. It's how the game is played, right? You go to the boot camp, strategy. But the strategies are the ones that work for everybody. Coaching and the masterclass that's included with it are not masterclass, the momentum mastermind that's included with coaching. That's where we're like, boom, boom, solving every tiny problem that we need that stands in our way, not just getting 100 grand or 200 grand, but how to get 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, 1,000. 1,000. So internal authority, if we don't have enough internal authority, we just blindly follow anybody out there. If we have too much internal authority, then we're just a bull in the china shop. Now, we all know which one I've faulted to since I was a young man, right? But that's the range in internal authority. I just follow anybody. I just believe everything I hear, right? It's on the internet, so it must be true. And then there's the bull in the china shop. No matter what anybody else says, I'm going to do it my way. The dynamics for external authority is learn, keep going, just study, learn, data. That's one extreme. And the other extreme, you know as well as I do, the other extreme is I don't learn anything. I don't want to know a thing. And I'm just going to follow my instincts. So notice the two patterns. Now, I'm going to quote Aristotle here because that makes me cool. Aristotle said that good is the mean between the extremes. We don't want to be on either extreme, the bull or the sycophant, the one who just listens to everybody and has no opinion for themselves. We don't want to be either one of those. Good is square in the middle of that. And learn everything and do nothing. There's a perfect middle there as well. So as we look at this, guys, I want you back to to wrap it up, back to the surgery. How many of you are trying to do brain surgery without enough information? Or how many of you just keep studying the WebMD, but not going to a medical school? That's the dilemma that we all face. And I highly suggest, if you're in the fundability game, if you love this stuff as much as I do, or even close, then come to medical school. Fundability school is awesome. Go to getfundablebook.com. If you haven't ordered it, get it. If you haven't been to the boot camps, $97, getfundablebootcamp.com. Come and join and just find out the strategy level of what you read in the book. If you haven't done, if the strategies are not enough, if you want more than just some awesome, insanely cool things that blow away $97, but if you want more for your life, if you want to be at the top of your game, then let's do this. Come an intern. What do you call interns at hospitals? Not an intern. What do you call it? Where they come and learn how to be a doctor, right? An internship. So that is what we're talking about, and I'd love to have you come and join me. This is Merrill Chandler, and every day I do want to come and talk to you. Every day I do a podcast. It just fills my heart with wonder, because more and more people are sharing more and more podcasts, and the word is getting out. And I want to thank you for doing whatever you've done to refer someone to the podcast, refer someone to come here and find their truth about how to maximize their dreams in their life, and the funding to back it up. And if nothing else, just call me Dr. Fundable, and you can be a resident. That's what it is. It's a resident. Come and be a resident. And let's make sure that we get off of WebMD, guys. It's not serving you. Let's learn what we need to know, and then put it to work. You guys have a spectacular morning, afternoon, or evening. Merrill Chandler out.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.